All right, so hello everybody. Welcome to episode 24 of the Train Station podcast. If you're new here, just tuning in to 24 episodes later, I am your host, A Train. With me, as always, is Derrell, and we actually have a special guest today. I'm gonna let him introduce himself.
My name is Parker Underwood.
So me, Parker, and Derrell are going to just do a little bit of chatting here. There's a big top 10 matchup game this weekend, a little bit of in-state rivalry. Michigan and Michigan State. Derrell, why don't you start off with your thoughts on the game?
Well, I think that this game is going to be a determining factor of who's going to get second place in the Big Ten East. Tuck coming, but Jim Harbaugh is going to smack him around. It's going to be a good game, honestly. I think Michigan State is going to lose. This is going to be their first real loss. Everybody's going to see that this season so far has been a mirage. They've just been beaten up on bad teams.
Now it's funny because you said they were going to get smacked around, but it's going to be a close game. So which one's it going to be?
Honestly, it's going to be a blowout. I got Michigan beating them by at least 13 points.
Okay. I don't see it that way, honestly. I don't see it being a blowout in Michigan's favor. I see Michigan struggling with this game. You said Michigan State hasn't played anybody. Neither has Michigan. Neither team's really played anybody, super duper good at least. I guess you can count Nebraska as a team that's just kind of been unlucky because a lot of their losses have been by one score. So at some point you kind of start to feel bad for Scott Frost rather than Nebraska because they lost to Oklahoma by a score. They lost to Michigan State by a score. They lost to Michigan by a score. So I guess that Nebraska team's really not as bad as they look. But other than that, neither team's really played anybody. Washington's awful. Michigan State played Youngstown State, Yippee, and a bunch of nobodies. Michigan beat up on the MAC a little bit, but other than that, this is a real test for Harbaugh and company. The seat's getting warmer and warmer down there in Ann Arbor for Harbaugh. And, if you look at, I saw a graphic the other day that, his winning percentage is great in August and September when they play the nobody schools. It's decent in October, he gets wins. And then come November when it's bowl time and ranked team time, it really starts to dip. So this is a big test for Jim Harbaugh and company. Mel Tucker is doing a good job, surprisingly early so far at Michigan State. And we're just going to have to see how it goes. I think it's going to be a good game. I'm very fearful that Michigan State wins this game. But I think it either top to bottom, it's going to be a one-score game. That's my thoughts. Parker, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, so I think there's going to be a couple things that are going to be deciding factors in this game. The first thing I think is going to be the biggest. Michigan State is coming off of a bye. So with byes, it's either a week that you're taking off, kind of chilling, relaxing, and you're going to come out sluggish, or it can be the complete opposite. So you're putting all your emphasis, all your energy into preparing for that next game, which obviously it's a rivalry game, so it's a big game coming up. So, and, with Mel Tucker, I think he's going to have those boys, focused, locked in, because they know what's on the line. Two undefeated teams. So I don't think that they're going to lack focus. I think they're going to come out fresh, healing from injuries or whatnot. So I think that's going to be a big factor. I think another thing is, I know VC's not going to like hearing this one, but every year Michigan starts off pretty decent, whether the season ends up good or atrocious. They usually start pretty strong up until they play Michigan State. Michigan State, it's typically a close game. And when Michigan State wins, Michigan's season falls apart from there and other teams start figuring out what works against them. So for that reason, and because Michigan State won last year and they were as bad as they were last year, I'm gonna have to give Michigan State the advantage on this. I don't think that they're the underdog. I actually think that they have an advantage. I think it's gonna be a close game. It'll be a battle, but I think they're gonna find a way to pull it out. That's what I think.
Yeah, and a couple of things to bounce off of that. You mentioned the bye week and how important the bye weeks are. If you tuned into the Michigan Northwestern game yesterday, they kind of had Michigan kind of had that bye week effect. They started the game off really, really slow. It was 10-7 at the half, and then the second half they got it together. They picked it up and they ran away with the game. So that bye week is very important. Also, a key note to note in the series. Usually the team that runs the ball more successfully usually wins the football game. It's been like that the past like 6-7 meetings or so. So Michigan and Michigan State have both had very, very successful run games this year. Michigan State has a Heisman candidate in Kenneth Walker. I think Michigan has a great running back duo in Hassan Haskins and Blake Corum. So we're going to see a lot of running the ball. I think both teams struggle to throw the ball. And I think more so this year than any other year, the team that's able to throw the ball better is the team that's going to walk away with the win. Because both teams know what they're going to expect. Both teams are going to put 8 in the box and try and stop the run because both teams love to run the ball. And honestly, I don't think we've seen it enough from either team yet. I know Michigan State's kind of thrown the ball more than Michigan has, but can you trust Thorne or whatever his name is to win the game for you? And obviously, Michigan clearly hasn't passed the ball enough to see it enough from Cade McNamara to win the game for them. So that is where I think the real difference in the game is going to be is who can throw the ball better. I know the series is all about running the ball, but with both teams running the ball so successfully, it's going to be very important to get the play action and the deep ball to work for both teams.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that another big factor is going to be Michigan State's health. So I think that if they can walk away from this game with minimal to no injuries, I think they're going to be successful. So I know from the beginning of the season, an issue has been their depth. They don't have a lot of depth. They have a lot of transfers that came in. So they basically just have like a core of guys, their first string guys, and then there's a big drop off between the first string and the second string players. I think that if they can stay healthy, they got a shot. But it's all about that's why I think that the bye week is going to be big for them because it allows them to recover from those injuries and all that stuff. So, no, but I definitely think it's going to be a battle for sure. And it's going to come down to the pass. I agree.
You mentioned injuries. Michigan yesterday was missing 2 starting key offensive linemen, but you also mentioned depth. And Michigan's always been one of those schools that it's kind of just next man up mentality for them. They're able to recruit 2, 3, 4 slots deep at a position. Where Michigan State with the turnaround with D'Antonio coming out and Mel Tucker coming in, he doesn't quite have that yet, which is kind of why I'm so surprised Michigan State's having the success they are so early, because I thought Mel Tucker, I don't know if he's the right guy for the job anyways, but I figured it would take a couple of years, especially in the condition that D'Antonio left the program before he left. Mm-hmm. He didn't leave the program in a great condition, but and it doesn't really matter who the Michigan coach is because it's Michigan. They have the Michigan mantra. They're always going to have the depth and the ability to be able to keep up with anybody now, which is going to depend on the coaching and the play calling to get them over that next step.
Right.
Just as you think they might get over that next step, they go back and convert into what's beaten them in the past. So there's a lot of key factors in this, but yeah, those are big as well. And the bye week this past week definitely helped Michigan State get healthy. Michigan, I don't think was too banged up yesterday. I think that most of their guys that were injured are resting up and should play against Michigan State. So both teams should be fairly healthy going into this one.
Yeah, to your point there too, both teams, they've had some pretty weak schedules as of thus far. Like you said, Youngstown State, no disrespect to Western Kentucky, but that's not an elite program.
Yeah, no, not at all.
But both of the schedules, they toughen up, with Michigan, Ohio State. They're going to have a lot of these big games coming up. So it's definitely going to get tougher from here. But, Ohio State, they look good the past few weeks. So I think they're going to run the table on the rest of the league.
As much as I think State has learned how to play football again from that loss from Oregon, they aren't the same Ohio State team that we're used to seeing. They aren't quite as dominant, but I mentioned scheduling for both Michigan and Michigan State both played Northwestern. Terrible this year. Coming off a Big Ten West championship, they just aren't the same. And Michigan State's played Youngstown State, Miami, Nebraska, Western Kentucky, Rutgers, and Indiana. All these teams are bad.
Miami's
Bad
not
teams.
that good. No.
Miami got beat by Alabama week 1 and forgot how to play football.
VU is not back.
And then Michigan, on the other hand, like I said, they beat up on MAC. They played Western. They played a bad Washington team, bad Northern Illinois team, Rutgers, a bad Wisconsin team, Nebraska, and Northwestern. So either team has really had a big challenge. So while both teams are undefeated and probably arguably overrated in the rankings, it's deserved at the same time.
Yeah, with Josh Gaddis, being at Michigan for a couple of years now, he's exposed, his playbook and what he does. It's been.
I don't think he's fully opened it up yet either, and I think a lot of that still has to do with Harbaugh not giving him complete control.
Right.
Because when Gaddis was fired, when Gaddis was hired, not fired, he preached speed and space, speed and space. We have yet to see that speed and space. We see a lot of runs up the middle still. We see a lot of halfback dives, halfback tosses, and all of that. So we have yet to see that big speed and space thing that he's preached for so long. And if you look at the recruits that he brings in, fast wide receivers, slim, athletic, fast wide receivers. Yet we have yet to see them produce in the speed and space role that he's talking about. And I think a lot of that still falls on Harbaugh having to have control of the offense in some way. He's just so unwilling and stubborn that he's not giving Gaddis full control. And we're seeing a lot of just the same stuff that we've always seen from them. And I think if he completely gives Gaddis full range, we'll start seeing, first of all, we'll see Cade McNamara get benched because he's not a Josh Gaddis guy, you can tell. You'll see a lot of more J.J. McCarthy. You'll see a lot more quarterback runs. You'll see a lot more wide receiver sweeps. You'll see a lot more, play action, deep balls. You'll see a lot more 4 verticals. You'll see a lot more things that Josh Gaddis is trying to accomplish that I think Harbaugh's still holding back.
Yeah, so kind of wrap up this topic here, Michigan State coming up. Big Michigan State alumni right here in the podcast. Mr. Coleman, a Spartan, bleeds green. What's your score prediction for this game?
First of all, I'm not even going to get into it. All right, you know what? It's going to be Michigan 27, Michigan State 14.
27-14. Okay.
Well, I could see that score happening. This just has all the feelings of being a low-scoring barn burner kind of game. Both defenses have played outstanding this year. It kind of gives me like a 17-14 kind of feel, last-second field goal, thing. That's the kind of feel it gives me.
I agree.
Or it could be that like that 1 year Michigan won 12-10 and Michigan State fans were bragging that they scored a touchdown, but you still lost the game. It has all the feelings of being kind of game. Just because we've mentioned already, both teams are going to try to run the ball, and running the ball, they're going to waste a lot of clock because neither team's going to want to put the ball in the other hand's offense. So both teams are going to try and waste as much time as possible. So for me, I'm going to say it just gives me like a 17-14 kind of feel. And obviously I'm not picking Michigan State to win, even though I think they're very capable of winning. I think Michigan wins 17-14.
I feel like there's going to be a lot of field goals. I'm going to go 2017. I really don't have a say in who I want to win.
Who do you think? Okay, since you don't have a say, who do you think wins the football game?
I think it's going to be a battle. I think it's going to be close.
Didn't answer the question.
I'm
He's avoiding the question.
because both of you went Michigan. It hurts me to say, but I'll go Michigan State. So I'll go.
Upcoming.
I won't say that, but yeah, I'll go Michigan State with this one.
Now, if Michigan State wins this game, I will not be surprised in the very least. I don't even think I'll be upset. It's just typical.
Mhm.
Honestly, Michigan could lose out as long as they beat Ohio State at the end of the year. That should be their one goal in mind.
Yeah, I don't think that's.
It's not going to happen, but I think the one goal in mind should be to beat Ohio State. And also, I know I mentioned the bye week, but I forgot to mention earlier that even though Michigan had the bye week, that first half, I think they were kind of looking ahead a little bit. They were kind of brushing Northwestern off, and they kind of were looking ahead to next week, like, oh, we got undefeated Michigan State next week. You know, we're going to easily blow these guys out and move on. And
Yeah.
luckily Michigan State had the bye week where they don't have to have that kind of trap game right there right before. And so it's definitely going to be a battle. I'm definitely excited for this game. I wish it was at a later time. I don't like the 12 o'clock kickoff. Or for me, it's 11 a.m. I don't like the 11 a.m.
10
kickoff.
a.m. for me. I'll be getting up a little early for that one.
I wish it was a night game. I mean, I don't mind that it's on Fox because I love Gus Johnson calling football games. I think just probably the best in the business right now. As far as a football commentator goes, I think he's the best in the business.
Parker loves
So
Gus
I'm not
Johnson.
actually mad that it's Gus Johnson and Joe Klatt calling the game, but I don't know how you guys feel about Gus Johnson, but I love me some Gus Johnson. So.
Coleman does for sure. Boy.
He's got
You don't
getting
seem to
away
think
from
you
the
don't
cops.
seem to be a fan of Gus Johnson there, Parker. What's up with that?
He loves him.
No disrespect to my man Gus Johnson, but I will have that game on mute. Yeah, I'll be watching that with the volume.
Okay. Why is the Gus Johnson slander? Just go in and explain that a little bit.
You know, he's just a little too over the top for me. You know,
I like that though, because a lot of the guys on ESPN sound way robotic and they kind of sound scripted in a way.
I agree. I'm more of like a Kirk Herbstreit type of guy.
Yes, I know Kirk Herbstreit can show bias a little bit, but I like Kirk Herbstreit as well. If it was Gus Johnson calling the game, I think that'd be the best pair of football commentators you could possibly put together.
I like Kirk Herbstreit for the reason that he really does his research during the week. So you're watching, he's going to know those behind the scenes features and details of each team that you're not going to know just watching the game. So,
well, it does help that he's a college game day analyst as well, and they kind of have the backstory and scoop on things. So that
and how his
and I think like you said, I think that helps him. I think him being a part of the game day crew makes his commentary better. But I don't know. I just love the way just Gus Johnson calls games, and then he's starting to dip into NFL games a little bit, and they make the NFL games exciting too. It's just he brings passion to a position that I think kind of lacks passion right now, because a lot of the commentators have just been there for so long that they're just kind of losing that passion for it, and they're just thinking of it as more of a paycheck. Where Gus Johnson's been doing this for so long, but he just still has the same passion he had for it from the first game he's done it till now.
I agree. He does. He has passion. I know for a fact that Mr. Coleman is his Michigan Wolverines with Gus Johnson announcing. He's counting down the days, the seconds.
I'm like a kid in the candy store, or I'm about to be like how I am later this week when I go to Disney World. I'm gonna be phenomenal.
So you're a big Gus Johnson guy too, huh?
Yes.
I think he really is good, and I know it's kind of weird to say, but we really do need to try to get him and Kirk Herbstreit calling a game together. That's no disrespect to Chris Fowler or Joel Klatt in any way. Joel Klatt's also really good, but I just think the tandem of Gus Johnson and Kirk Herbstreit would make one heck of an announcing team.
Yeah. nice little balance. So I got a question for y'all, boys. So as of right now, the two biggest job openings, LSU, USC, both great jobs. I'll start with Derrell first. If you were a head coach, you taking the USC job or LSU, and why?
I'm taking LSU. Because Louisiana, they have a lot of hard-hitting kids around the area, so you're not going to be short on talent. Now, I know it's going to be tough because you got to recruit against Bama, Florida, Texas A&M, and now Oklahoma and Texas. But, I mean, LSU knows how to hold their own, and the past 3 head coaches have won the national championship, so that's good. But 2 of the last 3 are about to be are either out of a job or about to be out of a job. But honestly, LSU is probably the best job in my personal opinion. It's very prestige. A lot of great NFL talent comes from there. The only talent I know from USC in like recent 5 years is like Juju Smith,
Sam Darnold.
Corvette.
Big TikTok fan, huh?
So
One more quick question. I apologize to interrupt you, Anthony. So for Coleman, in a TikTok battle, are you taking Juju or are you taking Jackson Mahomes?
Well, in honor of Patrick Mahomes getting beat up today, I'll take Jackson Mahomes.
Okay, Anthony, USC or LSU?
So I'm gonna kind of give a different perspective on this. I'm gonna tell you what job I think is better to take, but the job that I think coaches should be flocking to. I'm gonna kind of play devil's advocate a little bit here. Obviously, LSU is the job that everybody wants and everybody is going to be after. LSU is the bigger job in this situation. Just 2 years removed from a national championship. But here's the issue with that. The expectations at LSU are extremely ridiculous. If you're not competing with Bama, Auburn, Georgia year to year, then you're pretty much on the hot seat before the season even starts. So the expectations at LSU are absolutely undeniably unrealistic. I think Alabama set a precedent that everybody's trying to follow and they haven't been able to. I think LSU is a great job and obviously whoever takes that job is going to have expectations that I don't know if they're going to be ready for. LSU is an elite program, is a great team, but I don't think that the standards at LSU right now are a job that I would want. At USC, it's still a high prize position. Everybody wants a USC job. It's the top job in the Pac-12. But expectations, while high, haven't been quite what they've been, in the past. I mean, Clay Helton held on to his job, I think, 3 years too long. So I would say flock over to USC. Expectations aren't as high as they once were. You're still a big historic program. You're going to be able to recruit like crazy over there with the California kids, the Texas kids and all of that. Everybody wants to always go to USC. I mean, that's been on, if you look at a top recruit, they'll have Alabama as of recent, but then they always have Michigan and USC on the list because those are 2 schools that, with the prestige that they have, they always want to kind of go there. So I know LSU is the big money job that everybody wants because they're coming off a national championship. But I think expectations being so high, you want the USC job. Me personally, I would take the LSU job, but I think USC would be the job to take for coaches.
Okay. No, those are good points. You said that, with LSU, they have unrealistic expectations. I think that is going to be extra pressure, but I think that's a good thing. That's why, sports are so interesting. That's why you become a head coach, is because you're a competitor. You like to compete and you want to be the best. So a school like that, it's one of the top jobs for a reason, because their facilities are second to none. they can recruit top talent. There's really no reason for them not to be one of the top 4 teams in the country every single year. So, but there are pros and cons. You know, the SEC is obviously the best football conference. You got Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss. Shout out to the Rebels, Hotty Toddy.
See, I would say that the SEC, while everybody claims it's really, really good, it's highly, highly overrated. You have Alabama and Georgia, and then you have the rest of the pack.
I agree.
And if you've noticed when it comes time, and there is an SEC bias all across college football, it is what it is. Every time Georgia and Alabama play an opponent that wasn't ranked the week before, they are ranked the week of the game to make their schedule look better than it is.
I agree to disagree for the reason
because that Texas A&M team that Alabama lost to is not good.
We'll take my Ole Miss Rebels.
And suddenly they are number 14 in the country.
If Ole Miss were to play,
now, I understand they beat the number 1 team in the country.
It would be a blowout. Would you agree, or would you disagree?
Ole Miss,
if Ole Miss played Michigan,
Michigan would win. Michigan would beat.
No,
it would not be a blowout, but Michigan would beat Ole Miss.
Nah.
No.
Now Michigan would lose to 85% of the teams in the SEC.
But you're saying.
I'm saying the SEC is overrated. That doesn't mean that the Big Ten is also not overrated.
In the Big Ten, but if they would play some SEC teams, they would lose to 95% of them. So it doesn't. So the SEC is better than Big Ten.
Yes and no. Just because Michigan would lose to them, that doesn't mean that overall as a conference that they're better.
I think if you went game for game, team for team.
Because I think Alabama's beating 90% of the Big Ten.
Alabama's beating 100% of the Big Ten.
They're not. No, I think Ohio State would have them.
Mr. Coleman?
If they played every year,
yes.
If they played every year, Alabama, Ohio State, they'd start flipping victories.
Well,
because that would force Alabama to come to the north, which they don't do anyways. Because if you notice, every Alabama road game is in Florida or Georgia or somewhere warm. So I think if they started to having to play in the elements, it would be a lot different.
The championship's in Indianapolis this year, I believe. So
indoors though, it's a dome.
Hey, football's football, you know.
But it's a dome.
But a neutral site with inside a dome, you don't have to account for the weather factors. I'm just gonna say it right here. I'll put my car on the line. Alabama beating Ohio State.
I mean, if they played this year, I could see it. But I'm saying, like, if they had to rotate going years to years, if they had to rotate, where Alabama's forced to come to Columbus, Ohio State's taking the game.
Okay. Question for you real quick, Mr. Thomas. In a TikTok battle, are you taking Jackson?
I don't care. I literally could care less. I don't have one. I don't advocate for those to make one. I don't care.
Wow.
I think TikTok is stupid.
All social media is stupid.
Oh, yeah.
Social media is what you make of it. Are you kidding me, bro?
Oh, yeah, Lions are beating the...
Not only did they score, they just recovered an onside kick.
Yeah, that's why I was wide-eyed. I'm like, wait, what?
You have got to be kidding me.
Oh, and the Falcons beat the Dolphins.
Spice up your shirt on today. You lying.
Say?
But anyways, back on topic here.
No. Where were we at? Oh, yeah. Alabama would lose to Big Ten teams. They came up here.
I 100% think that.
Yeah. A dog.
100% think that because they're so conditioned to play in the warm weather that if they had, maybe not so much early in the year, but like when they have that like week 9 like FCS team, if they played a Big Ten team in the middle of October or November, they would lose because they're not used to the cold.
Oh, if Alabama came up and faced a dog food Minnesota team in a blizzard, Minnesota is going to win. And Parker, you love PJ Fleck.
It's his favorite person. But yeah, so I think that's why I say I think Alabama would win 90% of the time because if they have the home advantage, they're winning. Georgia, same way. Kentucky, not that great. Tennessee's terrible. Tennessee's losing to 90% of the Big Ten.
Tennessee had a battle against Alabama.
That's because it's a rivalry game. That's how all rivalry games work. And it was close for 3 quarters. That fourth quarter, Alabama did what Alabama was supposed to do and win the game by a lot of points.
Tennessee's a sleeper.
Tennessee's not good. Vandy, I don't even they can go in the category of Rutgers if I don't know why you're even playing big boy football. Mississippi State isn't great. Arkansas getting better, but still not that great.
Who else?
Auburn, it's a 50-50 with Auburn because you don't know which Auburn team is going to show up. Ole Miss, they're getting better under Lane Kiffin, but they're still not a threat to anybody.
They are to the rest of the SEC.
Didn't they already get smacked this year?
Yeah, it's the best team in the country.
I mean, Georgia. Or are you talking about Alabama?
To one of the top 2 teams in the country.
No.
Top 3.
Alabama does not deserve the top 5 rating that they have right now. And that's only because they have a loss to a 2-loss A&M team that's not that good. And because everybody else has yet to lose in front of them. It'll sort itself out. Michigan's got to play Michigan State. That'll help Alabama. Ohio State still has to play both Michigan and Michigan State. That'll help Alabama. I'm saying as of right now, Alabama does not deserve a top 5 spot.
Roll Tide. And
I think the top 4, based solely off of record and them being undefeated, I think they got the top 2 right. Georgia and Cincinnati should be the top 2 teams in the country.
Cincinnati should be number 1.
No, not the way Georgia's holding teams to like 8 points a game.
Oh.
And then I think number 3, despite them struggling, should be Oklahoma until they lose. And then number 4 should be one of the Michigan teams. Number 5 should be the other Michigan team. And then number 6 should be Alabama because they are the best 1-loss team. And then I think number 7 should be Oregon, followed by Ohio State, because of the head-to-head. Not Oregon beat Ohio State, regardless of that Oregon lost to a terrible Stanford team. They beat Ohio State head-to-head. And then you have Ohio State. And then you have Ole Miss at 9, and you have Iowa at 10. That's based solely off of who they played and how the records have worked out so far. But Alabama's always going to be a top 10 team unless they lose like 7 games, which is never going to happen. Because they get the benefit of the doubt like any other team.
Well, so we covered all topics.
We have covered both college topics, yes.
Excellent. And Lions are taking it to the ranch right now.
It won't last.
It was a touchdown pass.
But yeah, if there's nothing else, like I said, this is episode 24, the Black Mamba, Kobe. We probably should have talked basketball because why not? But there's really nothing to talk about in basketball, so it's kind of like this is football. But
Jamal Murray.
this has been episode 24. Once again, I am your host, A-Train. With me is Derrell and Parker. If you've gotten this far in the video and you've liked what you've heard, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell, do all that fun stuff. Click the link for the Discord below. We talk sports and all of that. Definitely trying to grow that community. And I will catch you, I don't know with who, but I will catch you for episode 25 next week.